Is it possible to get ahead in consulting before you've even started? Of course it is. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 ways to get ahead before you've even stepped foot in the firm. Let's go. Picture the scenario. You've just landed your dream job in consulting and you've heard about the long hours, demanding clients, all the travel, and you're wondering, how can I be best prepared for life in consulting before I've even walked through the door? Well, firstly, I'd say congratulations on picking what is, in my opinion, the most exciting, challenging, rewarding careers out there. And it's true, there can be long hours, clients can be demanding, there can be lots of travel, and it can require a lot of personal sacrifice. But these 3 tips I'm about to take you through will help you get on the front foot right from day one, give yourself an advantage, and make your whole life in consulting so much easier. And these tips apply whether you're an analyst joining a firm straight out of uni, or if, like me, you're making a career change a bit later in life into consulting. What are those tips? Let's get started. Without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most important things you can do to get ahead is research your firm. Now, I'm sure you did some research for your interview, so you could talk a bit about the firm, some of the top level strategies and that type of thing. This is about taking what you did as interview prep and taking it to the next level. There are 2 main things you want to know: people and strategy. People, you want to know who are the key decision makers in your area. So who are the MDs, who are the people supporting them, like the senior managers around them. That's at your practice level, or whatever term your firm uses. But then there's also the bigger piece. So can you actually name your CEO? Do you know who is at the broader C-suite in your firm? Are you familiar with anything that they've put out in the press recently or any industry magazines? Do you understand what's important to the people at the top? If you understand this, then it gives you an insight into the second part, which is strategy. What's the direction of travel? What is important to those people with influence? What key things are they looking to drive? What key skills are they therefore going to need to support them in that? But then there's also the bigger, broader pieces. So I worked for Accenture, and Accenture used to release a technology vision every year. So I made sure I would read that before I even turned up on day one. So I knew, what is the firm talking about? What is important to the firm as a whole? Now, if you're going to work for what in the UK is known as a PLC, that's a public company, then there is one hack that no one ever tells you that is super useful. That is, go and read the company's annual reports. And the key bits that you need to read in there are the CEO's statement and the financial information. It will give you some view on the health of the company, but also to understand where is money being spent, what's the key sources of revenue. And when you combine that with the CEO's statement, then you get a really good picture of the direction of travel for the firm. This means that when you land there, you can quickly align your personal priorities and the work that you do to those key things, and they then give you the best chances of getting noticed, getting the best projects, and all of those things combined give you the best chance of promotion. And if promotion is important to you, then you should go and watch my video about how I got double promoted in Accenture, link in the thingy up here. Next, we have one that should be really obvious, but actually most people underestimate. That's knowing your way around the keyboard shortcuts. Now, I've said this before on the channel, and I'm going to say it again now, because I believe that keyboard shortcuts and just knowing your way around the key Microsoft Office tools is the quickest way to realize efficiencies without compromising quality of your work. See, before I joined consulting, I had never used Microsoft Excel or PowerPoint as intensively or extensively as I do now. And each individual shortcut doesn't necessarily save you lots of time, but that's where compounding comes in. You might save a few seconds here, a few seconds there, a minute or 2 here, a minute or 2 there, but actually when you add this up over time, and when you just become so used to doing it, you save yourself potentially hours in a day. When you're tired and you're trying to fix a deck or fix a model in a spreadsheet. Actually, these little things can really save you time when you need it most. And there are heaps of resources to help you do this. And you don't need to be in the firm to be able to start practicing these. You can download examples, you can make your own examples. Key things like pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, indexing. Being able to do these things like this will save you so much time. And so we come to the last tip, reading. There aren't actually that many good books about consulting, in my opinion, but there are some that are worth reading before you join. The first one is pretty obvious, and it's The McKinsey Way. In fact, The McKinsey Way and The McKinsey Mind are both well worth reading before you join any consulting firm, even if it isn't McKinsey. Because whatever your view of McKinsey, there is no denying that they are the world's leading, topmost consulting firm. And so what these books do is they give you an insight into the North Star, gold-plated best practices of consulting, which, if we all had time, would be what we would do every single day. Now, the reality is that when you land on the ground, you're not going to be able to fully live by the McKinsey way every single time, but at least you'll know these before you start, so that when you do need to cut corners, you know what you're cutting, why you're cutting it, and how you can cut it. The McKinsey way is effectively the user guide or the handbook to the gold standard best practices of consulting. Now, I actually made a video summarizing the lessons for that, so if you don't have time to read it all, you can check out my summary in my video, and I'll leave a link to the full book in the description down below. But it's not the only book I suggest you read before you start in consulting, and this second choice might surprise you. It's actually Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. Now, I've reviewed this book on the channel before in the context of burnout, but in the context of consulting, I think it's a useful book to help give you a toolkit to be able to step back. Because look, sure, there are going to be long hours in consulting, there's going to be times when you feel like you can't see the wood for the trees. And that's the time where you need to be able to step back, take a perspective, and think about what is your purpose, what is your why, and tying your consulting career into your broader why. What this Mark Manson book does is give you that toolkit to be able to do that. I had to read it twice for it to really make an impact on me, and I first read it when I first started in consulting, didn't really get it, read it a couple of years later and was like, wow, I wish I'd seen it this way before. So I think it's a useful book for helping you maintain perspective in your early days in consulting. And again, this last one might surprise you as well. It's actually called The CEO Test by Adam Bryant. This book is the lessons that Adam and his co-author learnt through interviewing a whole bunch of CEOs. And it's not a book about being a CEO, it's a book about leadership. And leadership exists in whatever role you're in, whatever your job title. There are always going to be ways in which you are a leader. And this is a really great book for giving you some insights into good leadership. And really, consulting is a type of leadership. You're leading the client to a solution, or you're leading them to an outcome. And there are always going to be elements of leadership around how you interact with your team, with your internal stakeholders, with your client, that will benefit from the lessons you get from this book. So even though only 1 out of 3 of these choices have actually really been about consulting, and there are some other books, but they're mostly about the history of McKinsey or history of consulting, which, I don't know. I found them interesting, but I don't think they're essential reading. They don't really help you do your day job. Those 3 books have genuinely changed how I've done my consulting day job. And actually, I kind of wish I'd read them before I started. The reality is, you can turn up on day 1 in consulting, having done absolutely no preparation at all, and do a great job and have a great time, and good luck if that's how you choose to play it. But I don't think it's the best way to get the most out of your consulting career. I do think that a little bit of effort before you start, just to get yourself into the right prepared state, will pay massive dividends. When you start in the firm, you land your first role, people are going to think that you're actually quite an experienced consultant, and you're going to feel the same way too. And each of these things that I've suggested doesn't really take that much time. So the first tip, for example, doing the research about the firm, you probably only really need about an hour to do that properly. Maybe 2 if you're going to really get into it. The second one, around doing your keyboard shortcuts and knowing your way around Excel and PowerPoint, there are heaps of videos of varying lengths to help you with this. But some of the best ones are only 10 minutes long. And you're telling me that 10 minutes invested now to save even an hour when you started isn't a worthy investment of time? And reading. I mean, look, if you don't enjoy reading, you can watch summaries of these books on YouTube. Hey, I've summarized The McKinsey Way and The Subtle Art as well. But even if you only make 10 minutes at the end of every day to read a book, I mean, you'll have read these books within a month. So you're telling me that 10 minutes a day to save, again, hours of your time when you actually start in the firm isn't a worthy investment of time? Well, if that's the case, and to be honest, you're probably not still watching this video anyway, so the people left watching, I'm preaching to the converted. But these are things that I've both done and wish I had done before I started consulting, and it has paid huge dividends for me. I got double promoted within my first year of being in the firm. And that's not to brag, and if you want to know how that came about, then check out that video. But the point is, that happened largely because of the preparation that I did. And there isn't really much else that set me apart from my peers than that, if I'm just honest. I also think that a bit of prep can really help you to ultimately have a better work-life balance whilst you're in consulting and just enjoy the whole experience a lot more. I hope you found this video useful. If you've got any tips on what to do before you join consulting, drop them down in the comments. Let's help each other out. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do with the like button and the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.